Welcome to the group chat, guys. On this episode,
I'm going to teach you how to buy a Rolex.
we think about starting Vivek Ramaswamy's Australian fan club, and
Then we wrap up with the park cricket of the moment of the week, and no, another one.
it's all right, keep going.
So we wrap up with the park cricket moment, and also the what happened in the group chat.
Nice, we got there.
Can you pick that up?
Yeah,
We can't fix that up.
I promise you I'll fix it up. Mate,
Oh, good stuff.
are you allowed to put a deposit for the Rolex?
Nah, if I could, I would have dropped a few coin. Big coin
So
of that.
what do you have to do if you go in? So you have to go in
Yeah.
regularly to make them aware that you're still interested
Yeah.
and you're still a prospective buyer,
Yeah.
but you haven't put down any cash.
Yep.
You're still just basically getting your name on the list.
Yep. So
And how do they approach you?
when you say how do they approach you, they don't make any contact with you.
I know, but like how are you
how do you
allowed,
know- how do you
when
know
you're
you
allowed
got
to
it?
buy?
When you're about to buy,
No, when are you allowed to buy a Rolex?
when they get stock and they've got
oh, so they don't have
allocation.
stock.
They don't have stock.
So what's on the shops?
Yeah, but surely
That's
there's-
all. That's all exhibition.
But surely if they bring like
Ah.
10 watches, like 100 people wanting that, like how do they choose you?
That's their question, right? So they'll
Actually,
look at
this-
prior.
This should be a topic. Like
Yeah.
They'll
its
look
own.
at prior buying history. They'll
Yeah.
look at relationships. They'll look at people who aren't buying and selling.
Yeah,
They'll look
yeah.
at a few of those things.
Of course, yeah.
Let's say you, as my mate, have bought 10 watches in the past. You've already got a buying history. So if you want another one, and I know you don't flog them off to the grey market, I'll probably give you the watch because it makes sense, right?
How can they prove that? Do you have to like walk up with 10 watches in your hand?
Well, yeah, you can show photos of them. You can show because you go there frequently. Like
Yeah.
most of these people actually do have that brand and rapport with people. So you'd be more there if you've never owned a Rolex and you're trying to get your first one. That's gonna be more difficult because there's models that are more in demand than others. So your name's just pretty much an expression of interest. You could wait anywhere from 6 months to 5 years, or just never get a call because you don't go visit there frequently enough. So yeah.
Does it matter? Like, what details do you give? Do you give name? Do you have to give like occupation?
Yeah, I've got a full profile built with one of the brands now. So occupation, I gave them my address today, so I hadn't given that. They got my mobile phone, name, they got all your details. So emails. Then you're allowed to do 3 expression of interest. This particular one said you do 1 first, and then today I put a second one down. So sort of like 2 years in the making to put a second expression of interest down. So yeah. And whereas other sort of Rolex shops, like authorized dealers, they just let you stick 3 in straight away. But whether or not you'd actually give you any of those 3, just depends. Yeah.
That is a more intense process than I thought it would be.
Yeah, man. Like, when I saw you a few times, I'm like, oh my God, I'm inside the shop.
meet you
And
at
I
the
was like,
Rolex,
oh, bro,
yeah.
just stick your name down.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, just stick your name down. You never know, right? If
Yeah.
it's someone at the lottery, it's like, I'll buy it.
And there's like a secondhand market as well for it,
Yeah, absolutely. So,
but it's more expensive than buying new.
yeah, so certain models not just hold, but increase in value, which is cool. And other ones, you might lose a bit, but they'll still retain a lot of their value because of the brand prestige. Now, Rolex in the grand scheme of things isn't a really expensive brand.
It
Surprising.
isn't?
It's not.
What?
Yeah, it's considered like, if you look at all the brands that are there, it's sort of slightly above. There's like tiered watches. Rolex it's a good value brand. So it's like I'm going to say Mercedes of watches. So you drive a Mercedes around, it's known, it's got a brand, it's got a quality, all that sort of stuff. You can go lower European cars, and you can go then supercars, like you can go your custom Ferrari, Ferraris. So there's those watches as well, which sometimes people drop those brands in. I've got no idea what they're talking about because I've never heard of them, right? So it's just different. So
Dang, that's
so they start maybe
Crazy.
half $1,000,000 for a watch, things like that, right? It could go to $1 million, could go to 1.5. Like it's those.
Are these watches like the F1 drivers wear?
Yeah, like the Richard Mille ones, like
Yeah.
you're 300 grand, right? Like minimum. So yeah, it's
never heard of that. Have you heard of that?
What was the name?
Richard Mille, yeah.
Oh, Richard, yeah. That's the F1
Hublot,
drivers.
yeah, you'll see
Someone,
some.
I think one
I've
of the
heard
F1
of him.
drivers.
Hublot, because of Hubert.
Mate, I've actually heard of that one, but I've heard of Richard Mille, yeah.
Like Vacherin, Constant, like there's like a German-made one, not even
Yeah.
Swiss-made. Yeah, like they're expensive.
I think Hublot is the one Hamilton does, doesn't he?
Oh,
I think he's
yeah,
got
yeah, you're
IWC
I have
right
heard of that
now.
one. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
What is he?
I think like if he's with the Mercedes brand, that's
Yeah.
IWC.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot of money to waste on something that doesn't it does the same thing as everything else. Like it literally tells the time. There's mechanics involved, so it's automatic.
Mm.
There's a lot of gears, but yeah, like if you got one to service it, still costs good money as well. So servicing an automatic watch these days probably cost you about $600.
Jeez.
Oh my
Changing
gosh.
a battery in a quartz Swiss-made
It's
watch
like more
would be
expensive than servicing a
$50.
car.
Yeah. So it's expensive because I mean it's such little tiny intricate parts, right? So you
Yeah.
can't just get a regular like I've ripped open a watch and went I really regret this, but there's lots of little bits, so you need like a full proper magnifying glass,
Yeah.
things to clean it, put it all back together, balance it out. Like it's really detailed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fine art, a very very fine art. So but yeah, if you get one, it can last forever. It just depends on how you treat it. So.
Teach our kids to fix watches.
Maybe one day I'll get into watches.
Yeah, maybe one day. Speaking of money being wasted, how much money would you waste on a political campaign?
Ooh.
So I don't know if you guys have followed my newest favorite person in American politics.
Mm.
Cubit?
I don't know if you guys have seen Vivek like cake is what he says. In the media, he's been in the media, in American media a lot, mainly because American media hates him. But I think he's poured like 50, 60 million into his campaign. He's pulled out of the race yesterday, a couple of days ago, after the Iowa caucus. Tell me you guys have heard about him and tell me that you guys have been following him.
Heard about through you guys, and it stops there.
No, but, you see, you raise the question. Okay, he spent $50 million. Was that his own money or was that?
Yeah, his own.
Okay, think about it. Like before this election, before this started, do you know who Vivek was?
No,
The
I didn't.
whole world knows who he is now.
Yeah,
Was that worth $50 million?
yeah,
Maybe.
that's right.
So now the whole world knows who he is. Yeah, that could be the biggest advertisement campaign for a personal brand there is.
Yeah,
And but then but Vivek, I'm actually impressed with what he's brought to the table until yesterday. I guess he's the campaign. So yeah, it's been good.
yeah. He's probably done the smart thing by bowing out.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the smart thing.
Have you seen his high school, I think, speech,
The-
like when he was talking,
The Belgian or something. That speech he did.
when he's in ropes?
Yeah. It sounds the same, right?
Bro, what the heck? Yeah,
He was
he sounds
just-
like a man.
He was just as good back then.
Yeah,
I'm like,
This
I didn't sound like that back then when I was that young.
yeah. Sometimes you see like kids speak like at high schools and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kid's gonna be something special.
Mm.
That's what he
Yeah,
was like.
100%.
Back then.
Yeah, they're like him coming through. Everyone that's met him says he's like a very high IQ individual.
Yeah.
His engine as well is like nonstop. Like he'll work so hard on the campaign trail.
Mm.
And he's married. He's got a couple of kids. His wife's like a throat surgeon. So they're both like super hardworking, self-made
Mm.
people. He created this medical company, ended up selling it. It's really smart. Like essentially what that company did was they buy failed drugs, try and turn it around through a couple of things to address a few diseases. Some of them failed, some of them are successes. He's since sold that company and then he's used that money to then pour it into this campaign. But why I like him is this is one of the biggest things that I've been thinking about is in order to create impact and influence in this world, you need money. It's really hard to do that from a political stage. It's really hard to do that as in power of a company. You actually need a lot of money to do that. And he was in that position a couple of years ago. He was sick and tired of this whole woke agenda in America. He wrote a couple of books on it and he thought, you know what? I've got the money. I'm going to do this myself and run it. But what's your first impressions? When you see him in the media, what do you think? Like, what are a couple of words that come out?
To me, it's like it's about time someone smart was running for a presidency. I think that's what they're lacking for a long time is a proper intelligent person running for it. So
Yeah.
he's definitely a smart kid. Let's see how these kids was young as well. So it's nice to see someone young throwing their hat in the game as well. Because normally you always see there's always like old people up there,
Yeah.
trying to fight for it. So very well spoken. When he speaks, it looks like he never makes a mistake.
Yeah.
So, and you ask him, and he's open to us, and ask me any question, I'm ready to answer it. Like he's not scared of anything.
Yeah.
So he's very fearless, articulate. Yeah, it's good. I think that's what we needed, I guess.
Yeah.
So we need more politicians like that.
Yeah. Why do you think? Sorry. What's your first?
No, it's the self-made part, right? So if you've created something from the ground up, you know how to run it. You should have the same smarts to run a country. So I'd respect that more than a lot of people who have only ever been in politics and don't understand money.
Yep.
And they're the ones driving our economy.
Yeah.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Honestly,
That's
does.
true.
Why is that the case? Why do we encourage career politicians to run the country?
I do not. I want to be very clear. I think that's not a good grounding because all you're doing is you're sort of coming back and saying, oh, look, I've really done all these social causes by spending someone else's money and then you're the face of it. But they've got no idea where that came from, how it got generated and where the next dollar comes out of. No idea.
Yeah.
So, you go drop 400 million on whatever random thing it is. 400 million is a lot of money. Have you tried saving 10 grand in this economy by yourself? No, you haven't, because they haven't dropped anything, right?
Yeah.
So it's super different.
Yeah, out of touch with the reality as well. Do you guys watch Succession? Have you seen Succession?
No.
There's this, so it's based on the Murdoch story, roughly, right? And there's this scene where basically Roman, one of Logan's sons, who's the equivalent to Rupert Murdoch, is saying, I'm ready to take over the company. And Logan asked Roman, how much is a gallon of milk? And Roman is like, what? Like, what do you mean? No one knows that. And he's like, how much is a gallon of milk? And he's like asking him. And he's like, I don't know. No one knows that. And then this chick is like, don't worry about him. He's just angry. But you should really know how much a gallon of milk is. That's what I feel like politicians are. They come up through this career politics game. They don't know how much, they probably know how much a bottle of milk costs, but they're so out of touch with everything else. Whereas, people that are business people that have built something from the ground up, understand the economy, understand, how to run something, understand how to deal with people, understand the issues of...
You got to understand the market, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a series of just asking those dumb questions, being like, do we need to do that? Like, and that's where some of these politicians have stood out more than others, because they've just gone, do we need to do that? Like, and some of the answers are, no, we don't. We just kept rolling that thing over, right? So, it's just really clearing out that spend and then figuring out where we need to spend it, right? So,
yeah. I've got 5 reasons. How many reasons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons why I like Vivek. And I want you to rebut me.
Yeah, go on.
In terms of someone to lead the country. So self-made, high IQ individual, capable of leaning on experts. And I think you need to be a high IQ individual for that. And to run a country, you don't need to be the person with all the answers.
True.
You need to be, you need to have the ability to make decisions and lean on the right people around you. And so if you're high IQ like him, I think that's exactly what you need. Whereas we so often look for a leader that has all the answers. What do you think about that?
Behind any successful business or venture, it really is not one person. It's a team behind it. And there is a leader, but there's a good team behind that leader. And that's where your point. Like, you were willing to accept that, this person is smarter than me in this aspect. I'm going to lean on that person. And that's what you want from a good leader.
Yeah.
So what's a high IQ got to do with this then, if that's the case? Isn't that high EQ, not IQ?
Yeah, but you have the ability to understand, like, things.
So then you're the smartest one in the room?
You could be the smartest person
You could be,
IQ-wise.
yeah.
So when do you rely on other
but doesn't
you
mean-
also know, I
yeah.
think when you have high IQ, you know when you don't know something. You're
That's
very
right,
self-aware
exactly.
about what you do know and don't know. Whereas people without high IQ, I feel like would fudge themselves through a situation. Whereas if you're, look at smart sports people,
Yeah.
like MS Dhoni as an example. He's known as a like a very good IQ cricketer. Like he knows the game very well, right? But when he doesn't know something, you see him turn to people around him and you see him utilize the leaders around him to make a decision. That's what I feel like.
I think you're, personally from my experience, I think you're confusing IQ and EQ with that stuff. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But I've seen strong IQ people being terrible at EQ.
Yeah.
I think both are needed in this case. So
Yeah.
because they're the ones who rely on other people. Go, look, we're smart, but we don't know everything. We're going to rely on other people.
Yeah.
Not if you got a high IQ and a low EQ. I think you're running into a dangerous game because they come back and say, "Well, I'm still the smartest person here, so I'm going to make it up."
Yeah.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah, I think they probably play into each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he definitely is someone that can lean with people around him, and you could see it in his campaigns as well. Leaned heavily on the team around him, built a really strong team, which is actually one of my points, which I'll get to.
Yeah.
My second point is he's passionate about his vision, wants to create change, but is laser focused on the truth, and he was willing to call out people in his own party and call out even the side of the media that he was on, which is right-wing media, because he was so focused on the truth, which I don't think politicians do enough.
I agree, and I think maybe maybe the current America wasn't ready for that, which is why they didn't accept him right now. But I think when they start looking into it, he is right, and we need to go back to that fundamental truth in our lives, and I think that's what the world needs right now, and I guess America just wasn't ready for it right now.
Yeah.
What truths did he pick out? Like, as in what did he and so let's get this straight now. So he's got a team, he's got a political party, and he calls a few of them out, for not being on the same page?
No, he called out the chairperson of their party.
Yeah.
For not having enough accountability for the success of the party. That was one big thing, which is like you sitting in there and calling out the CEO and being like, basically, what should have happened to the Tigers, right? And that was a big deal because it was like, oh, he's like basically shooting our own party in the foot. So that was a big thing. He then called out Fox, which is their part of the media, for manipulation and all this other stuff. He called out, and this is natural, calling out the other candidates for things and corruption, but I think he pointed out really factual things about their campaigns, about why they were campaigning in a certain way, and these were all things that accumulated to cause the media and a lot of the right-wing people to vote against him because he was so kind of in your face about the truth, which I think works when you're Donald Trump, but he's obviously new to the party, so that didn't carry as much weight.
Fair enough.
Number 3, this hits home. Subcontinental guy without victim mentality. Now, a lot of migrants and immigrants these days carry victimhood mentality. We know life is tough. Sometimes we're oppressed because of who we are. It's just natural. Just it doesn't mean it only happens to us. It happens to everyone. Our parents have dealt with it, but we're not the type of people that sit there and say life is too hard. I'm just going to complain about it and not do anything. He's the type of person that has taken that and has tried to make a difference and make a change. And I actually admire that because I don't think there are migrants or immigrants like him enough in the world that are doing what he does. Heaps of people are happy to sit there and think, oh, we're being oppressed, etc., and not do anything about it. Or heaps of people are just willing to play the card of being oppressed. But don't realize that sometimes you need resilience. And this is obviously, there's people that are actually being abused here, which I'm not saying is okay. But there's a difference between going through tough times in life and using resilience to get through it. I think he's a perfect example of resilience.
Yeah. That's important, right? Because it's easy enough to be like us almost, get on a podcast and whinge about it. Well, we could not even do that much. We could just sit at home and be like, yeah, I'm smarter than that guy on that TV who's talking. I could have done a better job. But they didn't put in the hours. They didn't get the campaign. They didn't get the funding. They didn't do anything. So you're just a guy sitting here in front of your TV just criticizing, right? So, yeah, it takes action. It takes a special type of person to, really drive that home. So I think that's impressive to see that. He's done like he seems to be well educated, seems to be, had his own business sold out and that. So that's another successful part. Not everyone does that as well. And now he's going to politics, mate. Trifecta. So subcontinental or not, I don't think that actually matter to me personally.
It doesn't.
But being self-made like that is critical. I think that's a really good thing to have, and have something that's young. I don't need to see another 80-year-old come in and be like, hey, I'm going to run the country, when there's no investment, right? Like this bloke could be in term, was it 8 years? And then he could see this whole thing go out, like, the next 50 years. He could see it grow out, right? Which is really critical. What I see right now is politicians sort of come in, get their own personal gain, and then get out. And it's not great. So...
So the subcontinental one was a layup, which I don't have in there for my next point. His parents were born an hour and a half from where I was born.
Mate, so if you're born in Sydney, that's like what, past Penrith? Calm
Yeah,
down,
like
mate.
his parents were born in a town called Palakkad in Kerala.
Yeah.
And I was born in Coimbatore, which is really close. So
Oh, mate, it's like makes you cousins.
yeah.
Should add him, DM him.
Come over for sambar in Italy, Vivek.
You get him on the podcast.
But that's all I had. I mean, he's obviously self-made.
So hold on. So let's I like the self-made. Can I go into the media thing there a bit more? So he's said some stuff about Fox, right? Do you think that shot him in the foot? And why do you think it's different to Donald Trump in that case? Why could Donald Trump say stuff and get away with it?
Well, I think what shot him in the foot is he's trying to get the Donald Trump vote, which is very hard. And you could see, essentially, they're both the same candidates, similar policies, similar type of people with what they're saying. Obviously, very different people, but similar type of message in terms of America First, etc. But it's really hard to split that vote. And so it was easier for Donald Trump because he's been doing that now for, 8 years, 12 years, whatever. Whereas he's coming in new and doing that. So it's a new person calling out everyone. And another thing is Donald Trump tweeted just before the caucus to not vote for him. So that basically got all the supporters. Any vote that he might have had there with people going 50-50 was like, okay, we're on the Trump train now.
Yeah. But that look, it's still pretty powerful, right? I mean, not the fact that Twitter's got a heap of power, but there are still some...
Truth is the platform that he's... Is it Truth? What's that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, yeah.
So let's take this. Let's say Trump gets into the next election. He serves out his 4 years.
Yeah,
Right?
4 years, yeah.
After that, there's no one to replace Trump or anyone like him aside from his daughter.
No, but I think this is where Vivek's trying to
Yeah.
set us above the fact that he's the next Trump. Trump does his part. Like I'll just come and continue the game.
The only one who could take over Trump right now is his daughter, effectively, because I feel like she's the one being trained up for this. Is it
that's a
Ivanka?
left field.
She's good enough, yeah.
She
been
was in the
dragged
thing
into
before.
everything,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
right.
she's actually, if you think about the closest one in my view, if Trump had to go out and say, I'm going to support someone, it'd be a no-brainer to come back and say, my daughter's already been doing this job for the last...
True.
And that's how you stay within the circle of life.
Yeah.
I'm calling it now, right? So figure it out.
The new monarchy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
The Trump.
Yeah.
She had a special advisor role, is that correct? While Trump was in place?
It's like a foreign something.
I think she was the foreign. Yeah, something like She did some foreign stuff, but she's good, and she's very careful.
We don't know if she's good. We just, you
She
got
said-
the role for a reason, right?
But you can see she's a switched on person. So she knows what she's pretty good at what she does. So we'll see.
Based on how do we know that she's good at what she does? What's this based on?
Well, there were no wars during that
That's
time.
right. Yeah, she it was like that 4 years. Like they did a lot of good stuff.
Is it based on her or based on her, like the smart people around her going, don't say this, don't say that?
Probably is.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure there's a team behind it. It's not just her, but yeah. But like I said, it comes back to it. You're putting a good team around you.
Yeah.
So you might be the face of it, but
Yeah, look, I think like some of that stuff is luck. That's just my view of 4 years of good, clean, like no wars. I think it's probably not in relation to the person. If it was in this current political state, doesn't matter who was in charge, you'd still be in a few different wars.
I disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Bring it. Why?
Mate, this guy,
Bring it.
when Trump was in power, when you see what he did with Korea, see what he did with China, see what he did with Russia, he actually I could not see Biden going shaking hands with Kim Jong and Putin, and I think he did say he did meet the Chinese guy, didn't he? But like it's like
Xi Jinping.
yeah. Anyway, so
Philip Lee Haig.
but I think Trump, the fact that he didn't get into any wars was credit to him, because he's.
So I'm not talking about wars within US. I'm talking like Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah, 100%.
Talking about
Mate, because Trump, in my mind, Trump was crazy enough to shoot that missile. The fact that no one tried to start anything. Trump walks in and goes, "You start something, I'm shooting you down." They're like, "Okay," it's backed off. And then as soon as Biden came in, he goes, "Oh, sweet, it's Biden. Let's start the war." And every war started after that, after Biden got in power.
Yeah.
So everyone's waiting for Trump to get out of there, because he was crazy enough to do it. Doesn't mean he would do it, but he was crazy enough to do it.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to start that sort of guy.
The Rocket Man.
And
Yeah, that's right.
and I think like you see, he has such a bad perception. This is not now. We don't want to turn this into a pro-Trump podcast because we'll get cancelled. But there's such a perception that you shouldn't vote for Trump because he's such a bad person. And it's like, all right, so are we saying every person in politics has clean character, has a clean conscience? It's like we know he's a bad person because he was already famous before he was a politician.
That's right.
So yes, he's not like he's actually done probably pretty bad things back then, maybe now as well. But sometimes you need that. You need bad people as leaders.
The aggression, right?
Yeah, you do.
Because you need that to prove that you can get stuff done, or if you're not calling someone else's bluff. Yeah. I think that's important, actually.
Yeah, that's it.
So, yes, I agree to that. So if you go out and you meet someone and they're known to see you as an equal, not a, what do you call it, like a person below them, they'll hold the respect for you, right?
Yep.
So if you then pick up the phone and say, look,
that's it.
don't do this.
Exactly.
They'll probably take your word for it, right? So, I think he had that influence over more leaders. Absolutely. So yeah, but I personally, when he meets someone, I'm like, mate, it's a business decision for him. So that's what I first see it as, and then I'm like,
it worked.
It
still worked.
I still think in like with today's stuff, I think he would have struggled, but I think they would have masked it differently. They would have approached it differently, but I still think it would have happened. That's my personal take on it.
Okay.
Because like between two countries, there's like very little you can do. Like that's my view. They can either say, "Oh, don't do it for another," hold off.
Wait till I'm out of power.
Yeah, and then I'll use this to vote me back in. Like, this is my bargaining chip. No, but I think some of that stuff's been going on for 60 plus years. Like Sri Lanka's been going through that stuff, right, for hundreds of years, right? So yeah.
All good conversations. I think it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Do you feel like American politics is more interesting than Australian politics?
Oh, 100%.
Australian politics is so boring, man.
Because
they need more of this pizzazz and charisma.
But who is up and coming and self-made and whatever in Australian politics? Who comes up with that? Like, what names come up there? No one.
Because they're all career politicians. I think, except for probably Malcolm Turnbull.
Yeah.
No one else was really a business person.
And Clive Palmer.
Oh yeah.
It's a Turnbull. I like Turnbull based on the stuff he had achieved,
That's right?
right?
Yeah, he achieved a lot before he came in.
And so, once again, for me, was like self-made. Like I think the bloke turned down the Kirribilli house, right? Because his house was better.
Was better than the Kirribilli house.
That's nuts, right?
Now
He's like, "Do you want to move to the Kirribilli?" He's like, "No, thanks."
Now that's a flex, right?
Yeah, I don't want to downgrade. That's different, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a different level of authority, right? So. Yeah, having people like that in power, it makes heaps more sense. I think career politicians, in my view, shouldn't be allowed.
I agree.
It should be a general thing. You cannot do it. You must go work for a company for a decade, a minimum a decade. Let's say it's Big Four. That's a thing. And
you must go work under Jazzy for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then you're ready to run the country.
Big Four, mid-tier, let's say do like 2-3 year stints and work in professional service or work in the school, work as a teacher, do something and then get out of it and come out.
Yep.
And just see what it's really like. Don't come and talk to me about how we need to improve education when their kids aren't going to that public school. They're going private school down the road and tutoring or whatnot. Like they're sheltered. Doesn't make any sense. So...
And you can see in our state politics as well. Like I think the best premier we've probably had is probably like Mike Baird or something, who was very successful before he came to politics. Yeah. Did his politics stint, went back into business, going really good again. So like, yeah, right. So I think there is a bit of a You need that outside experience. Career politicians. I'm not a big fan of it as well.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can, it shouldn't be allowed. Adds zero value.
Yeah.
And you just like what are you going to learn from the person in front of you who's
That's right.
not done anything either? Like
Yeah.
zero value. So yeah, but I think look, young made professionals. I think the millionaires and billionaires of the world, they're not in the Australian economy generally. They do it elsewhere. So you obviously hear about that way more, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Got to achieve something before you reach office,
I think Ash had a point of who you want to be next Prime Minister.
mate. Anyway, to
Nice.
our park cricket moment of the week.
Let's stop at that. So to the listeners, what would you think of our boy Kevin here running for PM? So I hope he's hope you've spoken to Ashby about this.
He's a very passionate Australian supporter as well. In cricket.
Yeah, so he's effectively the Vivek, Trump, Malcolm Turnbull, all these really great leaders. He's all that rolled into one, but he's very truthful. He's straight to the point, and if he doesn't understand something else, I don't understand something, he's not going to try to fluff his way around it. So I think you're actually the ideal candidate.
Oh, thanks, Ash.
You're a chartered accountant
Heard it here
background.
first, endorsed by.
Chartered accounting background. Have worked in it.
He's
grew up in Western
won
Sydney.
Accountant of the Year as well, right?
Accountant of the year. There's a lot of good things. He's sweating now. That T-shirt wasn't transparent before. Kev, why would you not take that opportunity up?
No, like I said, I think you need money to do it. There's no point entering politics if you don't have the funding to be able to back you, or else you'll always be. Vivek said this actually. Back to him. You're always going to be paid off by someone.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have a hidden
Yeah.
agenda behind you, which it's hard to shrug off. So once I hit 50 million, which is how much I think Vivek spent on his campaign, then I'll hit you up and I'll ask for your endorsement.
Mate, there you go.
I'll be your campaign manager.
Hubert, 10 years ago, we walked onto a field. We bled. We cried. We sweated. And there were other fluids also poured on the field like Powerade. What happened and why is this a park cricket moment of the week?
So, yeah, like I said, 10 years ago, I guess all the boys got back together again. We brought in a few new boys, and it was like a sort of like a rebirth of our cricket team, right? 10 years ago. And yeah, it was an amazing season. Like, I still remember that season. Like, it was probably one of the best seasons I ever had, where the boys, we trained hard, came with strategies, we played hard. Like, it was a tough competition. Like, we definitely were not the best team in that year, but we did have a good bunch of boys around us. And yeah, I remember that grand final was, because I think for a lot of the boys, didn't never won a premiership before that. So there was extra motivation for me to try to get that premiership for those boys as well. And 10 years ago we got that premiership, and it's a great feeling. I still remember the day. It was just, even thinking about it now, bringing a smile to my face. And yeah, so now I still can't believe it's 10 years ago. So it's a long time gone past. But yeah, I think we're talking about having a bit of a reunion. Some of those boys we lost contact with, but I remember saying it that season, I said, if we win this premiership, the group of boys that are around us now will never lose our friendship, because that's going to tie us together. I think that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
And that's what good memories.
We often talk about if we lost that season, what would have happened?
Mate, I think half the boys might have quit. So, exactly. It could be like, it could have been a very different story if we lost that, and then we wouldn't have won the other premiership after that as well. So, no, it was a great win and good memories, and bonded that friendship forever.
Yeah. You were in London, Ash. Did you see the 2000 Facebook post that were on Facebook by all of us? I think we're posting every weekend. #45 all out. #premiers.
Yep, I still remember some of that. So it's coming through.
Yeah, the best part for me was that cricket trip when we celebrated. I think.
Oh, I think that was the best celebration we ever had. It was just those cricket trips when you win a premiership.
Yeah.
Just like goes to another level.
Yeah.
So good. So yeah, good memories.
Great moments. Ash, what's in the group chat? You were saying it's been a bit quiet since the start of the year.
It's been a bit quiet. It's largely been driven around the West Tigers. the West Tigers. We've got
Tigers
signed.
2025.
Yeah, indeed. So a couple of good signings happened. So we had Jerome Luai and Justin Olam. So that's exciting to see. So
Is that officially announced, Justin Olam?
Yeah.
Okay.
finally, he's actually got the jersey on and he's actually training.
I saw that jersey, but that was like some PNG guy posted up, right?
Yeah,
but I don't think West Tigers officially announced that.
No, they have that.
Okay.
They have. They've got the newsletter, mate. So, I mean, they have in the past said Tigers for the win, and then like a minute later into it, they're like to remove because the siren had already happened and they've already claimed a penalty, and then we've lost a match. But yeah, look, that's exciting. I think under the leadership of Benji Marshall, there's a when I say new board, it's sort of the old board. That's sort of been reinstated for now. They've sort of given, I think, Benji a bit more power and autonomy to kick out. So they've really cleaned house with the existing sort of staff members and team members, and they're really just trying to bring in some more really experienced players. Let's see is the answer. I'm in two minds about the experience. I really like Olam as a player. I think he brings a lot of good aggression to the field. Super experienced. I can bring some really good talent. Luai, I rate him. So I reckon he'll be good. He brings once again that aggression, experience. He's seen things at work. Really good with the Islander community as well. So I think there'll be some young kids that will follow him through. So there's some really good benefits. I think, you all should have heard the term "the fish rots from the head."
Yep.
So it really was. I felt like that sort of analogy prior, right? So basically, if someone's got no control, that really comes from the top. It's not your coaching staff that are screwing things up on the day. It's how that actually funnels all the way right up to the top. So if everyone's living and breathing the same thing, you'll see that in a club. And I think someone like the Storm have probably done that for a lot longer than others for a while, right? So.
That's the famous quote by Jack Gibson, right?
Is it? That's the first time I'm hearing it.
Oh no! But the famous quote was something like, your winning premiership starts in the front office, sort of thing. And so that's exactly right. I remember when I saw the article saying the board's all sacked, first thing came ahead was, damn, they're going to be a threat this year.
Yeah.
Because they just changed their whole way I viewed West Tigers. I was like, this is what was holding them back.
Yeah, 100%.
And everyone knew it.
100%.
And when I saw the article, I was like, I think they're going to be a threat this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's all I needed.
Yeah, 2 years of wooden spoon, which like sort of as soon as the first year happened, I was like, this is gonna like happen again the following year, right? And I was like, no, you guys will make like 17th. I was like, nah, mate, like believe me, like the team's worse now, right? So, but it wasn't anything that the club was doing. And having seen the documentary and having seen how they all operate, I was like, yeah, individually, it's a pretty average club. They shouldn't be down the bottom, but they are. But they just let basic things, just slide through. So I was like, actually, those basic things should be criticised.
Yeah.
I really don't care how your family is right now. Your job is to win a football game, so win it, right? But they didn't have that aggression. They didn't have the team feel. So when you see a team hurting, like with you guys, the premiership, the team winning and a team hurting, you'll do that together.
Yeah.
So you'll feel for each other.
Yeah.
And you don't wanna let that other team member down. Whereas this one just became a thing of, well, I'm going to shine so I can get my points on the board, and you do your thing. I'll get my Instagram post out, you get yours out. Happy days. Yeah. So, and it was bizarre. Like, letting go of a player like Dane Laurie, in my view as well, was nuts. Yeah. Young kid, Penrith backing junior. Like, once again, really good talent. I think during a Penrith grand final, he wore a Penrith jersey. He's a local.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who gives a shit, right? And I'm pretty sure the Tigers pretty much made him apologize because he had this really weird reaction to it, which was like, "Oh, sorry guys, I apologize." I was like, and then I think all these supporters "Why are you apologizing?"
Yeah, that's right.
That's your hometown.
Correct.
Yeah.
You should have every right to wear it. Then you got some other side going, "No, you shouldn't be doing that. That's that's stupid. He's a Tiger." I was like, we're not playing the grand final. Clearly, he can wear whatever jersey he wants, right?
Yeah.
It was such a bizarre concept, right? So you just you can't support your mates, it was super annoying to see that stuff.
And the other thing I liked about the fact this ball got sacked was, I think apart from Penrith, when it comes to juniors, I think Tigers got the best bunch of kids coming through, and it would have been sad to see them lose all those kids under this current board. So hopefully with Benji and the board, this new board coming in, they hold on to these kids, train them up, make them good. And like I said, 2025, I reckon they'll be a pretty good threat. Yeah. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. Or just enough to start training the young blood to come through and just getting those learnings off like your Luais and stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like they can either be used in two ways. It's either like, you know, you use them to train the next generation up. So we may not get a return for 5 to 10 years for it. Or what you do is you sort of push Luai as hard as possible, thinking his, you know, 5 years ago of his talent, going, oh, why isn't he pulling all these really epic scores now? Tigers do the second one really well. Like we bought this player who's now experienced, but we want him to be a young 21-year-old kid, which you don't get, right? Like they've done that with like an Astor and like all these other players, right? Justin, like was it Reynolds? They pumped him.
Yeah.
They had all these really experienced players, but I was like, these aren't young guns anymore. You're getting them on the top end. What you need them to do is to train your juniors, but they didn't want that. They wanted them to perform.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got them for the wrong purpose.
That's stopgap measures.
Yeah.
But yeah, exciting times for the Tigers.
Mate, yeah, fingers crossed.
Sweet. That's the pod.